How to win Monopoly every time. Let's lock in and go.
With random dice rolls, chaos from each of the other players, and selected chance cards, you're probably thinking Monopoly is purely a game of luck and chance. Not only is there a way to control the game, but also
my game plan is always go for the oranges because people go to prison so much more than they go around the board the whole way. And they're right after. All they got to roll is like a 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. No, not 10 because that's free parking, but whatever. Anyway, get out of jail and you come straight to my home, straight to my hotel. Give me the money.
So use certain strategies to put yourself at an advantage every single time. In this video, I will look at every single Monopoly strategy to help you win the game. This includes property statistics and issues with thinking that orange properties are a go-to for every single game choice, as well.
Also, I mean, if you get a chance to get the dark blues and the greens, you take it. And the yellows, of course, are the best ones, but the orange every time. Does anybody remember their first ever Monopoly win? That is such a sad thing to say. I was like 6 or 7, I don't know why, but I remember the first time I ever played Monopoly, and I remember the first time I ever won. It's because I got all the greens. I had hotels on every green, and I just cleaned up. But let's learn how to win every time.
As looking at whether you should buy train stations and utilities. We'll also cover house and hotel strategies, and the timing involved with this, and then finally overall game strategies to help you get the edge, and all this in just under 8 minutes. So, here's how you win a Monopoly every time. Firstly, properties. Let's start in the early game. Once the game starts and you are able to move around the board one time now, it is your time to shine. Once you pass that go step, be sure to buy any properties that you are landing on for 2 big reasons. First off, owning properties means that you can charge rent sooner, which means you can start charging your opponents early in the game. But the $22 rent is winning no one Monopoly games really. The main part of this is ensuring you block opponents from getting sets and can then make better trades go forward.
Yeah, definitely. You use them in trades, and I'm evil in trades.
Avoid saving your money until you get the exact properties you're wanting, as this will put you at a definite disadvantage. But that really begs the question, what are the best properties? This comes from 2 perspectives. The probabilities to be landed on and return on investment. If we look at a heat map of the board, it is evident that orange are the hotspot properties because they are within 1 row from jail. This is followed by light blue, red, yellow and green. The problem
light blue, I never realized. I didn't never really realize. Why would people land on that so much? But what reason? Compared to the other, that's just random statistics. I never go for the light blues as well. I always skip them.
The probability of landing on each orange property is about 2.8%. And if we take the return on investment values for each set with hotels by dividing the hotel rent by total cost, dark blue has a ROI of 1.75, yellow 1.56, and orange with a 1.93. In fact, the ranking of each property in Monopoly based on likeliness to land and profitability goes as follows. So be sure to consider this when making trades and looking to buy certain properties. So, given that you land on orange,
I love the yellow and greens, and they are right down there. This is amazing. We're learning. I'm going to absolutely crush my daughter the next time we play Monopoly.
The most, and have a higher return on interest, surely just go for these ones every time. But there is one major problem we forget to consider. The problem? Skill level. We need to know what kind of players are involved in this game. In the instance that all players are aware of this information, everyone will try and secure oranges and the close followers. Then, only give up their property cards for extreme values, knowing the power they hold. This means you end up making trades that may actually not be worth it, regardless of how good these particular properties are. So, what is a solution? Luckily, I have one. First, we need to consider what players you are with. In a situation where you don't think any of the players are aware of this information, proceed with going for oranges and red as priority because they will undoubtedly win you the game. However, what if there are other players that do know about this info?
I feel like every time I go for reds, like I land on them, but nobody else does. I don't know what that's about, if that's just my games or it happens statistically, but I feel like I constantly land on reds and nobody else does. I'll try this next time though.
Instead of just thinking about red and orange, consider this. If you land on red or orange, without hesitation buy these properties, but as everyone is aware of their value, don't get your hopes set on completing that set. Instead, keep the oranges or red as a gatekeeper for later in the game. But you can't just go around without any sets waiting for the end. This is why you should think about other heavy-duty property sets. In general, the second color group on each side of the board offers a greater return on investment. As a result, in this high-skill Monopoly lobby, going for light blue or pink can benefit evident reward, given they are often overlooked. And we'll get to the best ways to maximize profits on these properties with houses and hotels soon. And now for the final set of property groups, train stations and utilities. Railroads are good investments, but only if you own them all. So if you're going for them, try and make sure you retain the whole.
What are these names as well? I don't recognize any of these. This must be the American one. I've only ever played the British one, so I only know the British roads. Yeah, these Vermont Avenue. Yeah, this is madness.
Set first, or if another player is making the run for them, don't be afraid to block their streak. And then utilities. In general, stay away from utilities as their return on investment is relatively poor and
they suck. Unless you actually work in utilities in real life, then they're very useful. But in Monopoly,
committing money to them can take away from your ability to buy other properties. Now, moving on to houses and hotels. Rule 1. Try to build 3 houses on your properties as soon as possible. This is because the rent increases heavily after building the 3rd house. As a result, plan ahead and possibly have enough money to secure 3 houses as soon as possible, putting your opponents in a troublesome situation. Of course, be sure to save enough money for rent, utilities, and tax charges. Rule 2. Don't upgrade to hotels. There are only 32 houses in Monopoly, which means that holding them prevents other players from building and increasing their rent. However, if you are closing towards the end of the game and the rent cost from a hotel could cause a player to go bankrupt, then feel free to upgrade. Rule 3. You can build hotels and houses at any point in the game. If you notice your opponent is near one of your monopolies, then place some extra houses down so you can get increased rent as they have a greater chance to land on you. Rule 4. Don't be afraid to mortgage properties to build on others. Mortgaging properties allows you to get a big influx of money that you can use right away.
I never thought about that. If you own some of the lesser properties and some of the higher properties, then mortgaging lesser property to get a house on the higher property might be worth doing, as opposed to just keeping it there and hoping somebody lands on it. I like this one.
If you see that your opponents are low on money and their near monopoly is your own, mortgage one of your other properties to get some building money and add houses. That way, your opponent has to pay more rent and will go bankrupt much sooner. And finally, for general tactics to help you secure that win every single time. Once all the properties are bought, be sure to stay in jail for as long as possible. If you land in jail early in the game, use a get out of jail free card or pay the $50 fine so you can keep moving around the board and buying properties. Once most of the properties are owned and built later in the game, waiting in the jail
This is so sneaky, but you can only stay in the jail for 3 rolls, I think. I'm pretty sure, but it is pretty sneaky because you can still receive money whilst you're in jail, but you're not staying anywhere, you're staying for free in the jail.
space keeps you from spending money. Simply roll the dice and stay in jail until you roll doubles or until you pay the fine after 3 turns. In fact, when charging players rent, force players to pay rent as cash. Players will have to mortgage or sell properties to have enough money. Some players may try to offer properties as well as a trade to cover their rent, but be strict when you ask for cash. This forces players to sell buildings or...
Alright, Gran, you owe me this amount of money. Alex, honey, can I give you Connecticut Avenue? No! Psh, obviously, I'd never hit my Gran. Also, she's not alive, so that'd be even weirder. Love you, Gran.
Mortgage their own properties, which then stops them collecting as much money. And lastly, remember that 7 is the most common dice roll. Knowing common dice rolls helps you to predict.
Yes, it is, and that's why the oranges are so brilliant, because you come out of jail and the majority of time they roll 7, which is directly on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, yeah, directly onto the community chest.
Where players will land. Because you're always rolling 2 dice, 7 is the most common roll on any given turn, and 2 and 12 are the least probable. Most of the time, it takes 5 or 6 dice rolls to circle the board once. Because 28 of the 40 spaces are property spaces, you will likely land on 4 of those 28 property spaces during a lap around the board.
Thank you for this information. This has been very educational. I can't wait to beat all my family members in Monopoly from now on, because it gets very heated. It gets very competitive, and I will win! Anyway, I hope you subscribe and join the gang, and I'll see you in the next one.
See me on way out of here, too far to step. Ash ready to my ash. Bitch so pretty, look better. Puffin' on Susan, she calling me daddy. Walking on shit, trying to look like this. Make the color, ain't never made a swagger. Security bank.